Welcome to another episode of the Motivational Intelligence Podcast, where we explore the strategies and mindsets that empower leaders to make transformational decisions in their personal and their professional lives. In today's episode, we're diving into one of the most critical aspects of leadership, hiring the right people. So we're going to unpack the 14 essential questions you should ask every recruit. Now, these are the questions that really go beyond the resume and the first impressions to reveal the core of a candidate's potential. So we're going to explore why self-esteem is the most critical predictor of success, how the answers to these questions that I'm going to give you unparalleled insights into a candidate's mindset, and how you can build a team that thrives under pressure, solves problems creatively, and stays resilient. So let's get started. I'm your host, Sean Johnson, and over the years, I've worked with some of the world's most successful leaders, helping them really master the art of building high-performing teams. Today, I'm thrilled to share with you the principles and strategies that's going to revolutionize how you hire and develop talent. This podcast is brought to you by 2Logical, a global top 20 training firm and the world leader in motivational intelligence development. We partner with leading executives to build the #1 talent pool in their industry. We've worked with over 40% of the Fortune 500 in 97 countries worldwide, and maybe we'll work with you next. To try our world-renowned executive coaching service for free, start a free trial of Mojo at joinmojo.com/trial. That's joinmojo.com/trial. You'll get unlimited access to the Mojo platform, custom onboarding, and 2 live coaching sessions free of charge. So, if you want to unlock even greater leadership presence and executive effectiveness, reclaim more of your time, and really build something special, get started with your free trial today at joinmojo.com/trial. That's joinmojo.com/trial.
And the more I studied it, the more I began to see that was the overwhelming commonality of the most successful people that I ever met.
And just the empowerment of the conversations, how it just really motivates you. You don't come across people that impact you that way.
Because a lot of people could say to me, oh yeah, no, I get it. But yet they really don't get it.
This, if you really lean into it, can be life-changing.
Mojo's is part of our DNA and what we do during team meetings.
And I just looked at Randy like, oh my God.
I feel like that's made a lot of impact in my direct report's life because they're not afraid to talk to me.
But I started to see what this gentleman said in the podcast. And I was like, it was just kind of surreal because it was almost like he foreshadowed what I was going to be up against that point.
They would come in every week and ask me, Paul, how far would you like to get? That's when I told them 105%. And they laughed and I said, no, 105% is where I'm going to be.
I think that concept is one that everybody can buy into, and saying that I can improve 1% from yesterday.
An unstoppable state of mind that enables you and I to achieve everything that we want out of our professional and our personal life.
Now let's start by talking about why traditional hiring methods fall short. If we're honest, the hiring process in most organizations is broken. Studies show that many of the recruiters make their decision about a candidate within 60 seconds of an interview starting. And so this reliance on first impressions, on resumes, on polished answers, it often leads to hiring individuals that look good on paper, but then they struggle to thrive when we actually get them into the role. I mean, think about it. Have you ever hired somebody that you thought would be great for the job, but they end up kind of falling flat? Or opposite, maybe you've hired somebody that maybe didn't have the best resume, maybe didn't have the most experience, but they ended up being one of your top performers. There's a reason why. The missing piece in traditional hiring isn't skills and it's not experience, it's self-esteem. So research shows that there's over 270 studies that have correlated high self-esteem with success, with adaptability, with resilience. And so employees with strong self-esteem, they persist longer in the face of challenges. They take ownership over their growth. They collaborate more effectively with teams. And so if you want a high-performing team, you need recruits that will not only have the right skills, but also, and perhaps more importantly, the right mindset. So the 14 questions we're going to explore today are designed to uncover the truth about a candidate's mindset and self-esteem. So here are the 14 questions to ask every recruit. Number 1, what has been your greatest successes in life, and why? Now, the reason to ask this question is to gauge how they define success and whether they take ownership over their achievements. So when you ask this question, some of the red flags you want to look out for are overly rehearsed answers or attributing success solely to external factors like luck or circumstance. High self-esteem candidates see success as a result of their effort and their initiative. Question number 2, what have been your greatest failures in life and why? Now, the reason I ask this question is to understand how do they handle setbacks and have they learned from them? So the red flags to look out for here are an avoidance of accountability or a focus on blaming others. So the reason I failed wasn't me, it was something else, someone else, some circumstance I was placed in. Because candidates with high self-esteem, they frame their failures as learning experiences, and that helps them demonstrate growth. Number 3, tell me about your 3 best friends. Now, the purpose of this question is to leverage the chameleon effect. So people reflect the traits of the people they surround themselves most often. So it's the old saying, birds of a feather flock together. So when you ask this question, if their friends' qualities don't really align with the traits that you'd want in a team member, that's kind of a red flag to look out for. High self-esteem candidates are going to be more likely to associate with motivated, with reliable, with positive individuals, people that you would want on your team. Number 4, what has been the most challenging thing you've tried but not been able to accomplish? Now, with this question, we're trying to assess their persistence and how they deal with obstacles. So we want to look out for red flags like quitting early or avoiding challenging goals altogether. Have they had the courage to set a big goal and fail? And the reason is high self-esteem candidates, they show resilience and a willingness to keep striving even without immediate success, even without immediate gratification. Question number 5, describe yourself to me. What are your 5 greatest strengths? What are your 5 greatest weaknesses? Now, the reason for this question is to explore their self-awareness and the balance of confidence versus humility. So red flags to look out for here are struggling to name strengths and disproportionately focusing on weaknesses. Because candidates with high self-esteem, they can articulate their strengths confidently and they can own their weaknesses as an opportunity for growth, something they want to work on. You want that level of awareness and humility. Question number 6, how have you built your life to leverage your strengths? And what steps have you taken to minimize your weaknesses? Now, the reason I ask this question is to evaluate their belief in their ability to grow and improve. And so if they come back and they're lacking actionable examples or you can sense this belief that they can't change, they are who they are, this is a red flag. High self-esteem candidates are actively seeking ways to maximize their strengths, and they're actively seeking ways to address their areas of improvement. Question number 7. If I met your best friend tonight, how would they describe you? What would they say is the one thing about you that bothers them the most? Now, the reason I ask this question is to gain insight into their relationships and how they perceive themselves through others' eyes. And so you want to look out for some red flags that are just evasive or defensive answers here, because high self-esteem candidates, they're going to answer honestly and they're going to view criticism as a path to improvement. Question number 8, describe yourself to me when you were a child. How did you change as a teenager, and what did you struggle with? Now, the reason I ask this question is to understand their self-perception over time and how it shaped their mindset. How did they grow? And so red flags to look out for here are just a constant theme of negative experiences without any real evidence of growth. Have they grown, improved, and become better? Because high self-esteem candidates are going to reflect on their challenges as formative experiences that help them become who they are today, that help them build resilience. Question number 9, how would your parents describe you? What's one thing they would say they are most proud of you for? What's one thing they would say frustrates them most about you? Now, the reason I ask this question is to understand their foundational relationships and how these shaped their self-image and their values. And so red flags to look out for here are answers that lack insight into how others perceive them. Because high self-esteem candidates are reflective. They're able to see both the positives and negatives in their closest relationships without being super defensive about it. Question number 10. What is the most courageous thing you've ever done? Why'd you do it? Now, the reason I ask this question is to assess their capacity for bravery and decision-making under pressure, and also a commitment to their values. So you want to look out for if they're struggling to identify a moment of courage, or they're framing courage as a reaction to external pressure rather than an internal conviction that they have. And the reason is because, again, high self-esteem candidates embrace opportunities to step outside their comfort zones, act on their principles. Question number 11. Describe to me the greatest challenge you've ever overcome. How did you overcome it? Now, the reason I ask this question is to uncover their resilience, their problem-solving skills, and their persistence in the face of adversity. So you want to look out for their focusing on luck or external assistance without really acknowledging their own efforts or the lessons that they learned. Because high self-esteem candidates frame challenges, again, as learning experiences, and they can articulate the strategies they used to succeed. They know why it worked. They know what made them successful. Question number 12. If you had unlimited resources, how would you spend your time? Now, the reason I ask this question is to explore their intrinsic motivations, their creativity, their vision beyond just financial incentives. What do they really want? What's important to them? So you want to look out here for answers that maybe reveal some superficial or short-term thinking without really having deeper aspirations, without having a direction. Because high self-esteem candidates, they can articulate goals and passions that align with growth, with contribution, with personal fulfillment. These are the types of people you want on your team. Question number 13. If you could go back and redo one thing in your life, what would it be? And why? Now, the reason I ask this question is to assess their ability to reflect on past decisions and their willingness to embrace accountability. So you want to look out for blaming others or focusing on regrets without really showing a forward-thinking mindset. Because again, self-esteem candidates, they balance acknowledgement of past mistakes with a focus on lessons learned and future opportunities. And question number 14. What do you want the next chapter of your life to look like? Now, the reason I ask this question is to gauge their vision of the future, their alignment with the company's goals, and whether they take ownership of shaping their destiny or not. So you want to look out for red flags like a lack of clarity or overly generic responses that suggest more of a passive approach to their life and to their career. Because high self-esteem candidates, they can articulate clear, aspirational goals and demonstrate a proactive mindset about achieving them. So those are 14 questions you can use to screen for all-star talent, and this oftentimes is going to be talent that your competition is going to overlook. Now, when you're using these questions in an interview, here's a couple things to keep in mind. First is, don't be afraid to go beyond the script. So many candidates are going to rehearse answers to the typical interview questions. And so these questions disrupt that pattern and they encourage authenticity. But follow up, dig a layer deeper. And when you do, listen for subtext. Pay attention not just to what candidates say, but what they don't say, or how they say what they say. Confidence, self-awareness, and growth-oriented thinking reveal themselves in tone and in detail. So after you use these questions in your next interview, ask yourself, did their answers reflect a growth-oriented mindset? Were they self-aware and accountable? Were their answers consistent with high self-esteem and accountability? Could you see them thriving in your organization under pressure, in collaboration, and through challenges? So those are some quick tips and questions you can use to screen for all-star talent. Thanks for tuning in to the Motivational Intelligence Podcast. Remember, building a high-performing team starts with asking the right questions. The answers you're going to get will not just reveal skills, but they're going to reveal the mindset and the self-esteem that are ultimately going to drive their success in this role. If this episode resonated with you, share it with your hiring team or your network, and don't forget to subscribe for more strategies that elevate your leadership capacity. We'll see you next time. This podcast is brought to you by 2Logical, a global top 20 training firm and the world leader in motivational intelligence development. We partner with leading executives to build the #1 talent pool in their industry. We've worked with over 40% of the Fortune 500 in 97 countries worldwide, and maybe we'll work with you next. To try our world-renowned executive coaching service for free, start a free trial of Mojo at joinmojo.com/trial. That's joinmojo.com/trial. You'll get unlimited access to the Mojo platform, custom onboarding, and 2 live coaching sessions free of charge. So, if you want to unlock even greater leadership presence and executive effectiveness, reclaim more of your time, and really build something special, get started with your free trial today at joinmojo.com/trial. That's joinmojo.com/trial.
And the more I studied it, the more I began to see that was the overwhelming commonality of the most successful people that I ever met.
And just the empowerment of the conversations, how it just really motivates you. You don't come across people that impact you that way.
Because a lot of people could say to me, oh yeah, no, I get it. But yet they really don't get it.
this, if you really lean into it, can be life-changing.
Mojos is part of our DNA and what we do during team meetings.
And I just looked at Randy like, oh my God.
I feel like that's made a lot of impact in my direct report's life because they're not afraid to talk to me.
But I started to see what this gentleman said in the podcast. And I was like, it was just kind of surreal because it was almost like he foreshadowed what I was going to be up against that point.
They would come in every week and ask me, Paul, how far would you like to get? That's when I told them 105%. And they laughed, and I said, no, 105% is where I'm going to be.
I think that concept is one that everybody can buy into, and saying that I can improve 1% from yesterday.
An unstoppable state of mind that enables you and I to achieve everything that we want out of our professional and our personal life.